everybody. We've been out here actually for a couple of hours. We've got a couple of really big announcements today, but one of the best is very grateful to be here with my partners from the Department of Homeland Security. Secretary Mullen could not be here, unfortunately. I think he might be in Alaska, actually, but he sent the best of the best, and that is Commissioner Rodney Scott standing behind me, as well as Dr. Sean Connolly. You'll get to hear from both of them, but I want to thank them. I also want to thank, unlike our previous events down here, I wanted to open it up past Texas. So we have the Secretary of Agriculture from New Mexico, Jeff Whitty, is here. The president of the Texas Cattlemen of New Mexico, Tom Pattison, is here. And also we have a great Arizona rancher who ranches multi-generational from Arizona, who is here as well. I wanted them to be part of this roundtable because now, as we have continued to battle but have made a lot of progress here in Texas, as you all know, we are beginning the process to open the cattle movement from Mexico again, first through the Douglas Port in Arizona, but eventually through the 2 ports in New Mexico. This now becomes bigger than Texas, and I wanted to make sure that everyone is represented at the table. I also want to thank my great partner in all of this, and that's Governor Greg Abbott, who has been nothing short of remarkable in his support of our work here at USDA. The governor, represented here today by the incredible Nim Kidd, you all know, as head of emergency here in Texas. Also his Deputy Chief of Staff, Toby Baker, is here. Toby, right there. An unknown fact is that Toby was my first intern 25 years ago when I was working for Rick Perry. So it all comes full circle. But Toby, thank you for your partnership and your leadership. Your boss has been unbelievable. And we'll talk a little bit as part of another announcement. And we are way ahead of schedule on the actual fly facility, just down the parking lot that way. We have a brand new opening date, which is months ahead of schedule, years ahead of where any other administration would likely be, but months ahead of where even we had hoped to be. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. That took a lot more funding to go to round-the-clock building, but we knew it needed to happen. But Greg Abbott has been just an incredible partner, and I'm so grateful. I know we also have Don McLaughlin, the wonderful state rep, and Chairman Ryan Guillen, who are here representing the Texas legislature. I talk to Don very regularly. He's kind of my boots on the ground down here, and very grateful for him, as well as some of our incredible leaders like Jason Skaggs and Russell Bainig and Westheimer and so many others who have been part of this effort from the beginning. So just a very quick thank you. Today we're very excited to make those 3 big announcements, as I mentioned, but really important to first, as I talked about, the fact that we only have 5 active cases in Texas 72 days in. If we all go back to 72 or 73 days ago, you all in the media who are here have stayed very much in tune. But when that first case was confirmed in Texas on June 3rd, that evening I held a Zoom press conference because I wanted to just start talking to America about what it was, what it looked like, and how we were going to battle it. We didn't have all the answers, but we knew that we had to stay in front of it. We've been working for 14 months to do so by closing the ports and opening up the facilities and breaking ground and getting the Novo fly through and getting FDA treatments expedited. But I don't think that any of us knew that 72 or 73 days ago exactly what this would look like, other than maybe the good Lord. But we had 1,000 members of the press and the community on that Zoom that night. This was not just a top priority for Texas, for New Mexico, for Arizona, but it was a top #1 trending news item in America and frankly around the world. And the reason is this: if we were to have another infestation just as we had in the 50s and the 60s, that the already low cattle herd numbers in America would perhaps reach almost back to 0, which means a whole other set of problems, obviously, as we're working to rebuild our food supply system here in America. And so it was also and always about our ranchers in Texas, and will remain that way, but it was also about ensuring that we have the food supply that we need to feed and fuel ourselves, and that is a national security issue. So as we've been building out over the last 72 days, as we have, I think, proven that we can manage and contain, there's obviously a tremendous amount of more work to do, but I do want to just take a pause and say the fact that we only have 5 active cases in Texas right now, 45 overall, is a remarkable feat, and it is one that we owe all of our partners on the ground here and across the country and in DC a huge debt of gratitude. So I want to thank that. But again, today we're here to make 3 quick announcements, and then I'm going to have some other great people come up to the podium, give a couple remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions. The first announcement is this. We are really, really grateful to our partners at the Army Corps of Engineers. I know we have some of you here today because, as I mentioned, we, instead of opening this new facility in November of next year in 2027, we are now planning to open 7 months ahead of schedule, that this facility will be fully operational by April 1st of this coming spring. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of really great people. John Bellinger, who's standing behind me, I'll have him say a few words if he doesn't mind. When we tapped him to take on some leadership alongside our great Undersecretary Dudley Hodgkins and others, that really John's #1 role as a regent of Texas A&M, a leader in AgriLife, as himself a rancher from South Texas, also a very successful businessman who'd built medical labs before. He was the perfect person. And I mentioned when I was here the last time John was with me that I think it was record speed. I called the White House on a Saturday at 5 after I talked to John and gotten his permission. That might be slightly out of order. I may have called the White House first and then called John. Didn't really give him a chance to say no. By Sunday morning at 10 a.m., I'd gotten clearance from the White House and the President of the United States to bring John Bellinger on the team. And so we got started right away, and he has done an incredible job. We will reach the initial operating capacity of 100 million sterile flies per week. We'll be opening by April 1. We'll reach that capacity by the end of next year or early the next. And of course, that will likely all be the Novo fly, which then really means we'll be at 200 million almost immediately. So very, very grateful for that. We'll be at that 300 million number, which is our goal by late 2028. So all very good news. Of course, on top of that, we did open the Matapa, Mexico facility you're tracking a couple of weeks ago. As promised, the first flies are moving out the end of July and early August, and those flies are indeed moving out. So all good news for certainly. The facility in Panama, currently producing 100 million sterile flies per week, and obviously looking to transition to the Novo fly very quickly. We're running all the tests on that right now. Of course, that would make that 100 million flies per week from Panama equal 200 million flies once they're producing Novo. And then just very quickly, and a big shout out to the team here at Moore Air Base that helped us open the dispersal facility, which may not have seemed like a big idea when we did that last spring, but once the screwworm hit our side of the border, and once we began to identify and then immediately move in flies to drop over where those conformations were, it is this fly facility and this team, this dispersal facility right here where we're standing, it is the reason that I believe we have been so successful in the containment. So I just want to thank the USDA team here on the ground for all that they have done, and partners at Animal Health, etc. So very, very grateful to that. I know we have some Arizona Rangers behind us. We also announced a new dispersal facility on the border of Arizona just last week. So not probably quite as much interest to our media here today, but really, really important. The fight is not over, but it is now safe to begin, as I mentioned, a coordinated reopening of our southern ports starting in Douglas, Arizona. Our second announcement today is related to that, and that is when I was in Arizona a week ago, the #1 concern from the ranchers we talked to there was the illicit movement of cattle by the cartels through Mexico and into America. We have always been working on that. We will continue to do so, but we are now doubling down to make sure that that illicit movement is located, it is immediately examined, and it is stopped. We will continue that. And the third announcement, and why this is so important, I'll talk about that, is our partnership with Border Patrol and Border Protection is so important because they can be our front lines. As the wall is being built and continuing to be built, we'll let Rodney talk about that, but they will be our front lines on this alongside our great teams at USDA. We'll be bolstering our frontline safeguards in the U.S. through improved monitoring capabilities. We'll have deeper engagement with Mexico. I am in pretty constant communication now with President Sheinbaum of Mexico and their Secretary of Agriculture Lopez and Julio Bertigay, their former Secretary of Agriculture, and they have been good partners, but we've got to do better as far as that illicit movement of cattle. And of course, our domestic collaboration with existing partners, including federal, state, and in Arizona and New Mexico, our tribal partners there. We already have the close relationship with our partners in Texas, but we'll be building out that partnership across our other states and are doing so here today. And then the third announcement, USDA will be strengthening our partnership with Secretary Mullins, with our Department of Homeland Security, through a new and unprecedented, historic memorandum of understanding that we will sign in just a minute. This will be an MOU that manages everything that we're doing along the southern border, which, as you all know, is 1,900 miles long, and regions where terrain makes it challenging to keep eyes on every animal that might cross the border. That's why this MOU enhances coordination and information sharing, ensuring our agencies can move more quickly to safeguard livestock, wildlife, and companion animals. The MOU also improves threat detection by leveraging advanced technologies, much of which we've seen today and this morning, such as our drone capabilities. And we've got amazing drone capabilities at USDA through APHIS and Wildlife Services. But what our DHS has and our Border Patrol has is unlike anything we have potentially seen before. And so that will be a massive aid in screening, detecting, identifying, and interdicting animals. At the end of the day, this is about supporting a stronger, more unified national biosecurity and a more stable U.S. food supply. We have beaten screwworm before, and we will do it again. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Rodney Scott, your Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, and a great friend to Texas and a great friend to our country, and someone that the President has such great confidence in. Rodney, so great to have you in Texas. Please join me.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. Hey, I just want to highlight, I don't know if you can hear me good enough or not. You know, a lot of you are used to seeing Customs and Border Protection along the border doing press conferences, but not usually about screwworm. So I want to level set and remind everybody, Customs and Border Protection's job is to know and to control everything coming into this country to protect America. And for years, we've focused on all threats. They just don't always get all the attention. So I wanted to highlight a little bit about what we're doing and what we're going to be doing more going forward. So at our ports of entry, we have agricultural specialists that are scientists focused on this issue, making sure that we make conscious decisions about what is allowed in, helping USDA make sure that any cattle, as we open these ports of entry, are coming in safely. But we also have to establish that, do we know what's coming in? As we've built out under President Trump a massive amount of border security between the border wall, the smart technology, the drones that are behind us, the aircraft, that's helping us know. And while you're used to hearing that in the context of illegal immigration or narcotics smuggling, it's just as important here today. That same technology sees the wildlife coming across. That same technology can identify cattle that are being trafficked across. And we're addressing all of those threats every single day, whether they get the attention that they deserve or not. Today we're bringing the attention to those issues. And I really want to thank USDA for always being a fantastic partner. And today, the entire mechanism, if you will, of U.S. Customs and Border Protection at the ports of entry and in between the ports of entry are teamed up in a way that I've never seen before, down to the level of deciding where a drone flies and when, so it meets both the national security, which includes the economic security, our food supply, our trade, all those issues at the same time while preventing cartels and other terrorist organizations from getting into this country. These missions align, they always have aligned, but now we're more in alignment, and we really look forward to the MOU being put in place that solidifies this going forward. This is how government should work, and under President Trump, this is how government is mandated to work. And I'm very happy that CBP is here to help you today.
Thank you so much. Also another great partner from the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Sean Connolly, the Acting Director and Chief Medical Officer of the Office of Health Security at DHS, and the former personal physician for President Trump. Dr. Connolly, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good afternoon, everyone. First to bring regards from Secretary Mullen. He's sorry he couldn't make it, as you alluded. He's traveling up north.
Yes.
And so the Office of Health Security within Homeland Security, we have a directorate, Health, Food, and Ag Resilience. And what we do is coordinate capabilities, assets, policy across the department in support of national security risk. And as we've heard, health security, food security is national security. And so what we've done is work with our Science and Technology Directorate, our Intelligence and Analytics Department, FEMA, Customs and Border Patrol, and we bring them all together and we deconflict and we focus on the effort and help coordinate with USDA and help identify where we can bolster the expertise that USDA brings to this. With our research capabilities and our other state, local, and tribal relationships, we're bringing that all to bear on this problem. And as we talked about earlier, although we're here in Texas today, I assure you that that's not necessarily just where the eyes are. We are looking to New Mexico and Arizona and east through Louisiana across to Florida and deciding where next do we need to work with the state, locals, and tribals so that they're ready, so that these lessons learned that we've really over these last 6 weeks or so brought to bear. How can we share them in a coordinated effort so that the preparedness, the training and exercising we can do and bring that outside to other communities so that it is a secure border and a stable economy for all. So, so that's what this MOU really solidifies, is what the American people would expect. And that we know should be happening and is happening, and hopefully this will outlive us, in future against other threats, not just screwworm, but any biological threat to this country.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Conley. Next up, quickly, and again on behalf of the governor, who's been great, our head of Emergency Department, Nim Kidd, Chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and Vice Chancellor of Disaster and Emergency Services, a great partner. We have almost daily calls on this amongst all the partners from every agency, local, state, and federal. And I'm so grateful, other than maybe a couple of days, Nim, during the last few days of flooding, but you are on all of those calls, and it just speaks to such, so great how important this partnership is and your leadership. So thank you.
Hey,
Surprise.
thank you, and howdy. On behalf of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, thank you all for being here and helping us get this message out. The team behind me is truly an incredible team working together, regardless of what state they're from or agency they represent or level of government. And the credit goes to you, Madam Secretary, for bringing us all together. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Nim. Great to have you. Final, I'm going to have Admiral Michael Schmoyer, who's the director of the New World Screwworm Directorate, who has really been driving this since last summer. And before we came out here, I gave him an award. We call it the Unsung Hero Award at USDA. His leadership, his 7-day-a-week work, his sacrifice, being away from his kids and his family. He's actually become a Texan at this point because he spent pretty much every day here since June 3rd when the first case was confirmed. But I want him to give a quick update on where we are and why this is so important, and then we'll take questions from the press. Admiral, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good afternoon. This is an incredible opportunity to see two things. Number one, to see the partnership that has actually been at play for not this day, for not this week, but for months and months and years and years. Number two, this allows us the opportunity to show you some of the specific elements that relate to the very important operational activities that we do to be able to monitor and to be able to address New World Screwworm. As Madam Secretary mentioned, we had 45 total animal cases with 5 active, but that means 40 that are inactive. We have right now dropped over 710,192,430 sterile flies in Texas since February. In addition to that, when we're looking at the observations that are being able to be had by the drones, by the helicopters, and by people on the ground, since July 1st, we have had 63,270 wildlife observations. Of those, 11,945 were from the ground, 23,359 were via drones, the same drones you see behind you today. Of those, overall 63,000 observations, 27,000 966 were related to trail cameras, all since July 1st. We've been working with Texas for months, for over a year. We've been looking at the plans, we've been looking at the strategy, and we've been preparing this. It was expected that New World Screwroom was going to be here last summer. It wasn't. It gave us the time to prepare, it gave us the time to have the partnerships and to be able to processes in place so that we could do what you saw demonstrated today. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you. Well done. Thank you, Admiral. Okay, we'll take some questions. Yes, ma'am. And if you'll introduce yourself. No, that's, yes, and I'll have a couple things to say on that. Dudley, I don't know if you want to offer additional, or Admiral Schmoyer. That is one thing that we have been tracking very closely, is that illicit cattle. To date, we don't know of one case that has crossed the border into America. We just know that it is a real possibility. And as we're opening the port in Douglas, Arizona, now probably 2 or 3 weeks away, and then a month after that, one of the New Mexico ports, and then the month after that, if everything goes well, the additional New Mexico port, that now opens the aperture for that potential of illicit cattle movement. I've got an Arizona rancher here with me, Ben Menges, who's from Arizona, who mentioned that while Texas doesn't have that much unmanaged cattle herd, maybe a couple hundred here and there, Arizona has 10,000 unmanaged head of cattle. So as we move more west and more federally owned lands, that becomes potentially a much bigger problem. It goes to why the border wall is so important. In Douglas, we have a wall. It's beautiful. The whole infrastructure that has been built is incredible to open up the movement and be prepared. But as we're, again, starting the movement again, this is why it's so important. But why I am very encouraged after seeing the drones today, watching the work from the helicopter, understanding the technologies that we now have, and really, I know we're not here to talk about the incredible work of Rodney and Dr. Conley and Secretary Mullins and Secretary Nome before him, but the fact that our border agents, and many of them are here, I got to meet them, great patriots, they now don't have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of illegal aliens crossing the border. They can now pivot some of that time and resource to protecting the border from illicit cattle, from New World Screwroom, etc. So I'll give Rodney a chance if he wants to say anything, but Dudley, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Admiral Schmoyer, to that cattle piece of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Just on the illicit movement of animals, the entire toolbox that Secretary Rollins has built for us at USDA, it's not just focused on a potential transmission risk here in Texas. We are assessing the entire U.S.-Mexican border. This additional tool, our partnership with DHS, the focus on illicit movement of animals, potentially in those areas in the western part of the U.S., this modernization will give us the sharpest tool there. So this is really helpful. It alleviates a point of concern, and we're grateful to have the partnership with DHS and CBP.
So I'll just highlight from the border side of it. Illicit cattle smuggling has been going on since as long as this country has existed. Under the last administration, there was so much chaos along the southwest border that it basically got ignored. But cattle going back and forth across the border was fairly routine. Now we have the border pretty much secure, and we're building out border wall at a record pace. But just as importantly, we're building out our situational awareness through these drones and through other capabilities to know what crosses that border. And we're going to leverage all of that to address all threats, to include the illicit cattle smuggling, and just shut it off.
As a follow-up, sir, can you talk about development of the border wall in the Big Bend area, heavy equipment moving in, and there's complaints about that? What are your plans?
So if you didn't hear that, it was about Big Bend. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Big Bend National Park, we're improving a road. We're putting in some technology. We're actually putting in one new road and improving an existing road. We are not building a 30-foot bollard ball like you're used to seeing there. There's plans on our website you can look at. Again, we're going to update those because we thought it was pretty clear. It is not. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people concerned about it. But I will give you a little bit of history, and this isn't my press event, but Border Patrol, CBP has been focused on giving land back to Americans. We did it in San Diego when we secured the border. We actually made parks safe again. We're going to do the same thing in Big Bend. I want to get to the point where we can take down those signs and say, hey, watch out for smugglers. Because we're going to have it secure, but we're going to have it secure while we preserve the pristine environment of Big Bend National Park.
Thank you. One other quick thing, just as a reminder, the reason that New World Screwworm broke the Darien Gap, and everyone thought we were done forever, right? We thought it was, quote, eradicated forever, was because of that illicit movement of people and cattle since 2020. So that's why we're here. But good news is we're going to beat it back. We've done it before. We're going to do it again at record pace. Thank you for that question. Who else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sarah with Telemundo. I was just wondering, what would you tell ranchers who are following the USDA restrictions but are actively worried that illicit cattle is being brought from Mexico?
Well, I think that, thank you for that question. I think that what this administration and what our Department of Homeland Security and under the leadership of Commissioner Scott and Secretary Mullins, I feel confident that that illicit cattle movement is probably still happening in Mexico, but I feel confident that we're going to be able to manage it and keep it out of our country. I don't know that that would have been the case, 30, 40 years ago, but with the technology today, with 1,000+ drones that DHS has, with our drones that we have through Wildlife Services, with the incredible people that are working the border, the technology. We have, I didn't even talk about, but through our $100 million grand challenge that we put money into, asking for ideas and projects to help us eradicate this. A lot of those projects came through as AI. I say in the cattle world, we say AI, that means artificial insemination, but I don't mean that. I mean artificial intelligence. But AI is giving us a whole new tool in that toolkit to identify, to react, and to move out in any way possible within a matter of hours. And that's the difference today. Yes, sir. The question is, how many drones along the border? Admiral, do you want to answer that? We're going to start, and then we'll be building up to big, significant numbers. And I would say we're already using them too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's a great question. We've been using drones for quite some time, and so U.S. Department of Agriculture, Wildlife Services has been using drones for a variety of reasons throughout the entire country. And so we have been leveraging those drones that are in Texas, as well as the hundreds of drones that Department of Homeland Security has. An important point, back in last October, the White House designated the Secretary and USDA as the lead federal agency for the screwworm response. Over 100 different departments and agencies at the federal level came to the table. Department of Homeland Security was one of the first who came forward and said, we can help. We can complement what you're already doing with dozens of drones in Texas as well as the border area and be able to use hundreds of our drones. And so consequently, as the science, as the needs require that we need to plus that up, we'll continue to do that. Thank you for your question.
And let me, just one quick thing and then we'll wrap it, y'all. One really cool part of this with wildlife, with illicit cattle, whatever it is that the drones have, and Rodney, correct me if I messed this up, the drones have the capability of heat sensor, right? That's how they sense, that's how they found the illicit movement of people, for example. Why this works so well with wildlife and New World Screwworm is if an animal is actually infested with the larva, with the the female fly that lands in the open wound and lays her eggs, if that animal is infested, they will run a fever and their body temperature will rise. So as we're using the drones, it's a remarkable tool that if we're sort of, the drone is seeing a herd of, we'll say a couple hundred white-tailed deer, then they spot the deer, but then that technology can zero in on if there's one or two of those deer that have a higher temperature than the others, there's a really good chance they could have, the New World Screwworm, and that's what we've been watching. And if that is the case, then we can zoom in using those drones, and then we can bring in flies and drop right over that herd to get rid of that New World Screwworm in that herd of wildlife or whatever it is. So that's how down into the minutia this effort is, and that's why we're winning, and that's why we're going to hit our mark a lot sooner than anyone ever thought possible. Thank you, McAllen. Thank you, Moore Air Base. Thank you to all the teams who put this together. It's an honor to be back. Thank y'all. So And then you win.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it is. It is. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's a good part